And here we go. All right, welcome to the 19th episode of the Revolutionary Code, where we bring the truth about how governmental politics actually work in every facet of human existence and how that affects our people, Black people here in America. I am your host, Brother Tamani M. Wandani out of Houston, Texas. I am the direct revolutionary product of one Cardinal and Bayou Chewy out of the Shrines of the Black Madonna, and the indirect revolutionary product of one Albert B. Clegg, African name Jeramogi Baby Hajiman, the father of liberation theology and the founder of the Shrines of the Black Madonna. I am also the founder of the Black Gold Nation movement. My co-host, the National Director of Political Strategy and Implementation for the Black Gold Nation movement, and the chairman of LACE, Liberation Advocates for Community Empowerment, the intellectual gangster, corporate grassroots revolutionary, and master domino assassin from Shreveport, Louisiana, aka the Boot, Brother Craig B. Lee. What's happening, Brother Craig?
Nothing much there, brother. Bring you greetings all the way from the port city, and I'm glad you got that right, because I gotta knock some heads off tomorrow on the domino table with a couple of pretenders. So yeah, today I appreciate that assassin as a dominologist. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think out of your intro, brother, that's my favorite. Master Domino Assassin.
There you go,
like
that. There you go.
All right, before we get into tonight's show, and it's going to be a doozy, I don't know, we're going to go beyond an hour. I'm just letting you know right now because of the subject matter. But before I get into it, let me give you a little bit of information about the Black Gold Nation movement. Our ultimate goal in this movement is to put our people in the position by which we can own and or control the environment. Because when we allow other people to own or control the environment, we lose, period. When we allow other people to control any system within that environment, we always find ourselves on the bottom of that system, be it political, agricultural, economic, educational. Whenever we allow other people to control any system where we live, we will always find ourselves on the bottom of that system. So since we don't want to be on the bottom of anybody's system, and since we know that when we control our own stuff, we do just fine, that is our goal, to put our people in a position by which we control our own stuff and do our own thing. Brother Craig and I, we are not here to just inform you or educate you. We are trying to get you to do something. We're here to inform, educate, motivate, mobilize, organize, and build. Every single thing we do, everything we do is about bringing our people together so we can find the right Black people, so we can build a nation within this nation that has power, period. We understand that the things that happen to Black people happen because Black people don't have the power to stop any of it. So if we want it to stop, we got to build some power that will allow us to stop it. Tonight's show title is, is Madams, Pimps, and Gangsters, the Revolutionary Underworld and its importance in the Black Grassroots Revolution. Madams, Pimps, and Gangsters, the Revolutionary Underworld and its importance in the Black Grassroots Revolution. All right, so last week, at last week's Cinematic Connections for Revolutionary Change, our movie review show that we do every other week, we reviewed the movie Trick Baby, which was about two con men, one white, one Black, working together to hustle and con people. Without going into too much detail, Brother Craig, can you give us your perspective as to why you picked that particular movie for us to review last week or this past Saturday? You turned your camera off and you muted. Hey, man. Well, we waiting on Brother Craig to come back.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. What happened to your camera?
I don't, it's some kind of safe driving mode. Hold on a second. Safe driving mode or something.
I think our shows are getting too black, brother. I think they're honing in on us.
Nah, hold on, let me see some.
And you're not even driving.
Trying to get this off of safe driving mode. Can you see me?
Yes, sir. I can see you now.
Am I here? Okay,
there you go.
okay. Some kind of way I got. Whoa, I'm back. I'm back. God damn it.
All right. Did you
All
hear
right,
the
now what's
question?
the question, Brother T?
Oh, you picked the movie.
Tell me again.
You picked the movie Trick Baby last week for our movie review.
Yes, I did.
Why that movie?
So that was the second Black exploitation film that I selected. The first being Spook, Who Sat by the Door. And that first film gave you a perspective inside of the world of some of our Black filmmakers at that point in time, who saw the opportunity to use film to elevate the consciousness of our people through a genre of film called Black exploitation. And if you've never seen that film, I suggest that you watch it. The content, the subject matter was dynamic. And so the main reason that I wanted to piggyback on that film with Trick Baby is because there's a scene in this film where some of the white architects, engineers, and managers of the philosophy, system, and game of capitalistic white supremacy, they're having a real deal conversation in New York City about how to deal with Negroes. The bourgeoisie Negro, wannabe bourgeoisie Negro, and the grassroots. And it's such a profound minute. I really would like for you, Tamani, if you can find that.
I got it.
Okay, play that, and the people will understand just from this clip. When you see a clip this profound, you got to understand the context of the movie that this clip came from. So play that, Tamani.
It's you liberals who have lifted them up, Howard.
Paul, you conservatives make a mistake. You can't afford to strangle hope in people. Without hope, people become dangerous.
No, Howard, you liberals have let them invade our society. You give them jobs, political jobs.
Paul, you missed the point. It's only the smart ones we move up.
That makes it even worse.
No, we have to move them up. If we leave a smart one in the ghetto, he might develop into a leader against us. But if we raise him up into white society, we neutralize him. He feels compelled to try to act like us. He loses his identity and his racial anger, if he has any. He becomes alien to his brothers. They realize he sold them out and they grow to hate him. He becomes worthless to them and safe for us. No, thank you. In fact, in his love for the creature comforts, except for his color, he's become one of us.
It's you liberals.
Absolutely profound. So some people have seen that clip, but they didn't know the movie that clip came from. And if you notice, the white individual who was playing with the chicken, trying to figure out how to eat the goddamn chicken, that is the Trick Baby. And Trick is a metaphor. Trick Baby is a metaphor for a child that is born of a white father, a John, a Trick, to a Negro female prostitute. And this individual is called Trick Baby because he can pass. In New Orleans, we call this passe blanc, pass for white. He can pass for white, hence the trick. He can go between both worlds of the Negro and the white world. So that's how he was sitting at that table, having been invited by his newfound white female lover. So I thought it was very important to see the whole movie in order to understand the dynamics of this particular Black exploitation film, so that our people can really understand the levels of how deep the rabbit hole goes when we're talking about economics, governmental politics, public education, these different relationships with the underworld, and how brothers and sisters use these films that perceptively showed us in a negative light, but use the
you muted.
hold on, somebody
go.
tried to call,
Right.
but use these films to prop up their heroes who happen to be individuals in the underworld, the pimps, the dope dealer, the loan sharks, because although these people were wreaking some havoc on the Black community, they were giving things back to the community as well, which makes for a more complex relationship, as we see with Bumpy Johnson, Malcolm X, and Harlem. So that was the real reason I wanted you to see the film.
Cool. All right. So that movie was based on a book written by a brother named Iceberg Slim.
That's right.
Who was arguably one of the greatest pimps.
That's right.
In terms of his understanding of human behavior, business, and of course the underworld and the American system. Why is an Iceberg Slim so valuable and important for melanated Black people who are trying to build power in America?
Number one, first off, let me define, and nobody gave me this definition, but when you look at the term pimp, to the average person, it just looks like one word, right? It just looks like one word, but within that word, you see four words, P-I-M-P, and this is how I define pimp: psychotic influencer and manipulator of people.
Say it again.
Psychotic influencer and manipulator of people.
Got it.
Okay. So a pimp is a very interesting entity because he or she master manipulator in order to get females or males to sell their bodies in order to maneuver in the economic system of prostitution. But beyond that, the pimp, i.e. madam, as female pimps are called, they are a part of a bigger apparatus that our people do not understand, because you have very powerful people who attend these establishments: preachers, politicians, law enforcement personnel, judges, business owners. You see what I'm saying? So these individuals are able to navigate with people that most people uphold and put in high esteem. But behind the scenes, when those lights go off, this underworld takes shape.
That's right.
And these individuals play a vital role in the political going-ons throughout America, in every city, including small cities and towns.
Dig it. Okay. So Trick Baby came out in, well, let me back up for one question. Okay. There's a key phrase in tonight's show title, Madams, Pimps, and Gangsters, the Revolutionary Underworld. And this importance in the Black Grassroots Revolution. Why revolutionary underworld? Why those two words?
So every ethnic group has an underworld.
Yes, sir.
Every ethnic group has an underworld. John F. Kennedy and them didn't get to the White House by selling Girl Scout cookies and Boy Scout cookies. Their families were mafia, Irish mafia. this is the game. And you need to understand the game, because whether you be Chinese, Japanese, Latino, so-called Jew, Italian, all of them have underworld, and there's a structure. And I always recommend people look at all 3 episodes of Godfather with Al Pacino, so you can really start to see how this thing works. There's an underworld in our ethnic group as well, but the difference is within the Black community, there is no actual cultural dynamic that our underworld rolls with. And so our underworld wreaks havoc on our community, while other underworlds seem to protect the overall community at large. And they use our underworld employees and gangsters and whatnot to run amok, run afoul, and destroy our community. But there are those historically who have been a part of that life, and Iceberg Slim happened to be one of them, who started to come into enlightenment to basically show how these particular individuals play a pivotal role in what goes on when it comes to Black revolution in America.
All right. So Trick Baby came out in 1972 during the era of blaxploitation films. For those who may not know what a blaxploitation film is, give us a brief definition, as well as what do you think made those movies so appealing to Black people during that time?
So blaxploitation, it appears to be, films that are exploiting our people, showing our people in a negative light. Superfly, Pimps, Hustlers, even whether you look at the Uptown Saturday Night films with Bill Cosby and Sidney Poitier, all of these, Cleopatra Jones, all of these were called blaxploitation, as if, they're exploiting something negative. And some of the characters were perceptibly negative, but here's the twist.
Mm-hmm.
Again, a lot of the people who became drug dealers, pimps, madams, loan sharks, they were considered to be heroes by grassroots people, because grassroots people could see them going in and out of the brothels and the prostitution joints. They could see them being, serviced on drugs. So grassroots Black folks knew that this was all a hustle. They knew that this was not 100% legit. So they saw the pimp, the drug dealer, these people as some kind of Robin Hood, so to speak. So blaxploitation films started to come out. One of the biggest films, like The Mac, comes out, and they start to show the different dynamics.
I think I muted you by accident. I was trying to mute Mr. Leroy. My bad, Brother Craig. Unmute yourself.
But they come and show our people in a variety of different levels. Like if you ever watched the movie The Mac, you get Goldie as the pimp who is maneuvering, and young children are looking up to him. They're showing the real deal as to how it happens in grassroots communities, Black communities throughout. But conversely, they show his brother, who was the grassroots revolutionary.
That's right.
And so you see a dynamic where both of these entities were raised in a Christian household, but based on the philosophy, system, and game of capitalistic white supremacy, they go different routes. And ultimately, Goldie ends up getting out of the pimp game. So Iceberg Slim was considered to be the master pimp, the master psychotic influencer and manipulator of people. And from that standpoint, grassroots people looked up to them and viewed them as heroes. So these movies actually portrayed to some degree them as heroes. And if you look at the review of Trick Baby, this particular film talked about that. And white boys, these weren't just Negroes making film, these were white folks making film because they saw the enormous monetary potential. Because when you pull up the numbers, this film only took $600,000 to make, and they grossed over $11 million on this film. And then when you look at Iceberg Slim's book, Pimp, and the other books that he sold, this dude sold over 6 million copies of his various books. Right. So he was able to elevate and become an author and a huge intellectual, helping to navigate people through these treacherous levels of the underworld that most people will never see.
And that's $11 million in 1972.
In 1972. Oh,
so that could quite easily be over 100 million in 1972 dollars.
Yeah.
Okay, and of course we know that America doesn't do anything via its movies when it comes to our people that doesn't have a particular spin to it. So what do you think Hollywood was trying to say with the projection of these characters, and how do you think that's affected the psyche of our people?
Well, Hollywood wanted to make money.
Yep.
And so they didn't have a problem, again, exploiting the negativity that was in our community. So they knew our people wanted to see us in a different light. They wanted to see us cool. They wanted to see us fly. They wanted to see us fashionable, right? They didn't want to see any more stepping and fetching, cartoonish type roles that they had been seeing for a long time. And that's, again, why these films that Bill Cosby and Sidney Poitier and Red Fox and other people played in, Jim Brown, a lot of these individuals played in these films. So Hollywood just was about the business of capitalizing. When Mario Van Peebles started to make film, he came in and started to put a different twist on it. But again, you can see the positives, the negatives, the pros and the cons of both sides of the equation.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, cool. So Iceberg Slim, a great pimp in his own right, if we can call a pimp great. And not for what he did, but because of his understanding of America and his desire not to get caught up in that game that most of our people are caught up in as it relates to how this thing actually works. If you could only give 3 things that Black people could learn from an Iceberg Slim, what would those 3 things be?
Number one is the power of the mind, and how a lot of preachers left the pimp game and the dope game.
That's right.
And went into the new pimp game, which is religiosity.
Yes, sir.
And you can see the cadence of the rhythm of the words and how they maneuver and the whole focus on the female. Number 2, you can learn entrepreneurship because in their minds, they're taking a product and leveraging revenues and profit. And you can see how, the third thing, how money, status, and materialism is the number one thing of influencing most grassroots people. Because our people will overlook a mass murderer staying next door to their ass if they're being supplied some damn chicken and some turkeys and I mean, heaven forbid they start to produce some jobs, the community will come to that person's aid.
Yep.
So those are the three things that I think: the power of the mind and psychological manipulation, the entrepreneurship that pimps and drug dealers, although their business activity is negative towards the community, and the acquisition of the revenues from those particular individuals in terms of doing various things. And I will say this, if you look at The Godfather of Harlem, which is a series that depicts the relationship with Bumpy Johnson and Malcolm X and Adam Clayton Powell, amidst the various dynamics of the Italian mafia, the Jewish mafia, and all this stuff, you will really start to get how the political world interacts with the drug world and the pimp world, because white folks actually, although they still disrespect them to a degree, they value their intellect and their courage to maneuver more than they do a lot of the, as they would call them, stiffs in the Black community.
And what you said about our ability to love the axe murderer if he's giving us some Popeye's chicken, that's true. We will ignore the evil of a person because of identity politics.
Exactly.
We will let a drug dealer, a gangster, a pedophile, a liar, we let people get away with all kinds of quote unquote sin because we identify with them or because we like them.
Exactly.
which highlights the psychosis and the sickness of our people and the slave culture that we live in, because we lack spirituality and right culture, and of course those other four pillars. Okay, so Iceberg Slim was a pimp, but we also had madams and gangsters, and you said the madam was the female pimp, so I'm just going to ask about the gangster. Do these two groups bring a different aspect to this game, or are they pretty much the same, the pimp and the gangster?
Well, the pimp controls a smaller economic sphere than the gangster. The pimp and the madam kind of operates underneath the control of the gangster. And if you were in Harlem and Bumpy Johnson is running Harlem, if you were a pimp, you probably had to pay him tax.
Sure.
Because they locked down the territory. Like, this is a McDonald's territory, you got to pay.
Franchise.
and so the gangster had more pull and more leverage. But, depending, some gangsters were in the pimp gang. Some gangsters were, that was a part of their revenue stream. The numbers, the drugs, the prostitutes, they just looked at it as another business transaction. So yeah, there's a little, yes, it's different in terms of, the hierarchical structure. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now we know that when it comes to our people, they were then and they are still now considered undesirables, and most certainly among most of the majority of our civil rights and even our Black Power movements. Explain to us the significance of a Bumpy Johnson, Nicky Barnes, Larry Hoover, or Jeff Fort. Who were these people, and why are they so significant?
They control the soldiers. They control the killers, the hitters. They control the people who will put you in the dirt. And the youngsters are a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And the majority of those youngsters in the street, in the grassroots community, look up to these individuals. And they're brilliant. Larry Hoover and Jeff Fort And Jesse Jackson's half brother, Noah Robinson Jr., are three of the most brilliant people, period, in the world. Freeway Ricky Ross is one of the most brilliant people in the world. And he's so influential that you got multiple movies and TV shows about this one dude, because he was directly connected with the Iran-Contra drug sales that the United States were maneuvering. He is the point person for that, okay? So these individuals are connected to the streets. They're connected to the people who perceptively fall through the cracks, but there ain't no damn cracks. These are holes, gaping holes that the architects, engineers, and managers of the system create. And so these individuals have been incarcerated because, like that clip is talking about, if these people learn the 6 pillars of empowerment and come into spirituality and culture, and they learn how to tap in legitimately to economics, revenues, profits, man, you can direct these cats from killing each other to being straight up protectors of their people. So that's why Larry Hoover, who was one of the original American gangsters, is still in jail. That's why Jeff Fort, who was one of Hoover's associates with the Peastone Rangers, these El Rucon with the Noah Robinson. Noah Robinson, Jesse Jackson's half brother, graduated from the Wharton School of Business. Man, these cats are smart, but they saw the hypocrisy of America. And since they saw the hypocrisy of America and they were leader-like, they said, we gonna go get it, just like they went and got it. But that's not the way. But that's how they got in the game. But these individuals have influence over some hardcore folks, man, inside the jail and outside the jail.
That's right. This was not, this question just popped up as you were talking when you said the holes are gaping and on purpose. Summing up another movie review that we did a few weeks ago, Waiting for Superman.
Yes, sir.
Help us understand how and why the holes are gaping and on purpose. Summing up that documentary that we reviewed, how and why are the holes gaping and on purpose?
So when you hear people who are
wait. And I want everybody to know, like everything else, all this stuff ties in.
Yeah,
go ahead, Brother Craig. Everything ties in. Go ahead.
So when you hear people naive, oh, this ain't how it should be. The system is broken. That they should be doing this. Look, man, listen, the system ain't broken. The system is working just like it's designed. So when we look at the documentary Waiting for Superman, and we juxtapose that to Trick Baby and connect that to everything that I just said, here's the thing. What do you think happens to the majority of miseducated, misled, misguided, melanated people in America? So let me pose it like this. When a child is in elementary, here's the question to everybody on this call. How many children, what percentage of children in America or throughout the world, when the following question is asked in elementary, junior high, high school, here's the question. What do you want to be when you grow up? How many children are going to say, I want to work for the trash truck? How many children say, I want to be a dishwasher? What percentage of children will say, when I get older, you know what, you know the job I really want? I want to work for the stinky water treatment plant. No child is going to say that. But those jobs are important. So what must happen? There must be a forced devaluation of education, because the philosophy, system, and game of capitalistic white supremacy racism is predicated on three things: the creation, maintenance, and expansion of a permanent underclass. So the holes are created because for the people who are going to follow the script, going to college, you know, graduating, going to school.
That's right.
We got to at least create the appearance that if you do the right thing, there are going to be opportunities waiting for you.
Just like that clip.
Okay?
That's right.
That's where that clip comes in.
Yes, sir.
But it's all a game. It's all a game. Because guess what? There are only so many positions if you follow the goddamn script.
Right.
So the only way that you can maneuver in this game to create the real opportunities for our people is to become an entrepreneur. But you can't become, if you're going to do right by your people, you can't become a capitalist. And so the Black exploitation films and the gangsters, they looked at white folks as the lead, and they said, hey, they pimping, they selling dope.
That's right.
They running moonshine. Okay, well, we gonna get out here and get it. We gonna chase the bag. The issue is those of us who come into enlightenment, we don't match their goddamn intensity. So I tell grassroots people all the time, if you ain't got nothing to offer our people other than some philosophical masturbation, shut the hell up. Shut up. Because the dope dealer, the pimp, the white capitalist, they are offering these people resources to go get bread, pay their bills, whatever. What are we offering? So this is why we must become hybrids in order to fill those holes, because those holes are designed by the system. Hence, you can wait for Superman all you want. His ass ain't coming to save you. And neither is Wonder Woman. Because this game has so many trap doors, and the people who are playing it and leveraging resources are some of the most unsavory people who you'll ever want to meet. But trust me, a lot of times they got respect from judges, police officers, other individuals who you don't even know. Mm-hmm. But because they might be buying drugs from these cats, or buying sex from these cats, or whatever, or laundering dope money through the churches, because all of this goes on. These folks have influence. Mm-hmm. And that's how this game is played.
Dig it. All right. If you missed the beginning of the show, you're listening to the Revolutionary Code, where we bring the truth about how governmental politics actually works in every facet of human existence, and how that affects our people, Black people, melanated Black people here in America. Tonight's show is our 19th episode, and it's titled Madams, Pimps, and Gangsters, the Revolutionary Underworld, and its importance in the Black grassroots revolution. My name is Tamani Mwandani. I'm the founder of the Black Gold Nation movement, and my co-host is Brother Craig B. Lee, who is the national director of the Black Gold Nation movement's political strategy and implementation department. Okay, Brother Craig, next question. How different is Bumpy Johnson, Nicky Barnes, or Larry Hoover from an Al Capone, a Bugsy Siegel, or the Kennedys?
Shit, Naeem
knows.
They not really
come on
different. Other than
that's right.
These are, the melanated gangsters. They are on that level, especially Bumpy Johnson, man. Bumpy Johnson had respect from those Italians and those Jewish mafia. And let me say this, brother Money. Well, let me put it like this. The Bumpy Johnson, they'll run some legitimate enterprise, but those guys have never understood how to corporatize on a major level.
Right.
So let me give people an understanding of what I'm saying. If you look at all three franchises of the Godfather 1, 2, and 3, you're gonna see how Las Vegas was built, and a lot of people don't know this, but Las Vegas was a collaboration. The casinos, everything you see, that was a collaboration between the so-called Jewish mafia and the Italian mafia.
Yep.
Buzzy Siegels was the visionary behind that, and Meyer Lansky, he was the brain trust. Meyer Lansky and Buzzy Siegels were partners. So if there's one thing I will say that's very different, again, by our people not having that cultural connection because of slavery, they are limited in their scope as it relates to how this whole thing maneuvers. But one cat in Houston has figured the whole game out, and that's Jay Prince.
Yeah.
And I mean, the brother got respect, but he's a straight up, for real deal gangster. And people throughout this country know what time it is when he speaks. And he has a powerful book called Respect that I wrote reference this past Tuesday, our Tuesday morning breakfast. So they're the same, but at the end of the day, the white boys, because they are plugged in to very sophisticated schemes, they look at more epic business ventures and things like that. But if you look at the series The Wire, you'll get some of that with Stringer Bell when he tried to go to class and learn how to be a developer. But some of the Negroes, they just really like, the adulation from the females and the ghetto superstardom that they get. And that's kind of like where they stay stuck.
Yeah. And not only were some of them limited in scope, and even the ones who were not limited, because Black people were running numbers, which is simply the lottery.
Oh yeah,
that America does. Black people were doing that initially. Our gangsters don't seem to understand that America will work with her white gangsters, but attack the Black ones. We don't understand that if you're going to do this thing, you have to do it on a certain level. And like you said, you have to know that they are in it to win it, and they are brutal with their pursuit of power. So if you're not willing to match that brutality, or if you don't have the ability to match that brutality, you're probably going to end up losing as it relates to what you're trying to do in that world.
Yeah, and losing your life. And Brother Lloyd just made a good point about another film series called Boardwalk Empire, about the mafia takeover, in the gambling and the liquor game. And again, our people they don't understand, brother. Right. This is this whole thing is gangster. And that's why when I announced myself, intellectual gangster, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not a gangster from, thugging, but you got to have your mindset geared towards how diabolical this thing is. And the white folks are so cold with it, they gonna tell you the truth in their movies if you know the ones to look at and analyze.
Right. And this goes back to some of our previous episodes when we first got started. This is their belief. They believe that they're supposed to operate on this higher level, on a God level, because they believe that they are God, and they answer to no one. So we don't understand that while we are praying to a deity to be saved, we're looking for Superman. They believe that they are in fact Superman. And that's why they do what they do. And because we don't understand how they think, we don't understand how they operate, which is why we constantly getting duped.
And we're constantly projecting our naive sheep mindset onto them, and they operating on a whole nother, man, this thing here is on a whole nother level, yo.
That's right. That's right. You mentioned these three brothers earlier, and I want to come back to it because it's significant. Malcolm X, Bumpy Johnson, and Adam Clayton Powell. They had a pretty significant and sometimes combative and even contentious relationship at times between the three of them. Yes. But tell us what you think made that relationship amongst those three brothers so interesting and important. Those three brothers in particular.
Malcolm, well, the most, all three of them had their value, okay? But who controlled the grassroots out of those three?
Bumpy?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Bumpy controlled the grassroots. Malcolm was gaining leverage, but he was less control of the grassroots. Why?
Religiosity?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Negroes there were Christians, and he was pushing Islam.
That's right.
But he was pushing it from a grassroots agenda.
Right. So
people could vibe with him, but they weren't gonna leave the ham hocks, the pork chops, and the goddamn chitlins. That wasn't gonna happen.
And white Jesus.
And white Jesus wasn't gonna happen.
That's right.
And then Adam Clayton Powell was the brain trust in Congress maneuvering, and he was also what? A Baptist preacher.
Yes, right. You're a preacher.
So you see this dynamic, and they all three needed each other in order to maneuver. Right. But Malcolm had to learn, he had to ease up, because you ain't gonna go in the paint on the cat who's running Harlem. I don't care how many Nation of Islam that you have, right? Because they have hitters. I mean, for real, they're hitters, but it's a mutual respect. So you now learn the art of diplomacy at the grassroots level, and they all three figured out that they had value. Yeah, it's a little crazy because you got to do behind the scenes negotiations with people who are in illicit activity.
That's right.
But guess what? This is reality. It ain't fantasy. This is how this thing works. And you need to really understand that, because when you get out here and you start articulating and these people don't know you, like I can go into houses where people sell illicit narcotics, but they know who I am, and play some goddamn dominoes, whoop their ass and leave. Not too many people can do that, but I'm from the streets. But I've never been involved in the illegal activity. So I covered my bases from Fair Park High School in Shreveport to Xavier University in New Orleans to corporate America, back to Shreveport. So I'm bona fide in my understanding of how to integrate this whole thing without becoming corrupted, because it's a very in-depth curriculum that you got to have in order to do that. So those three guys elevated to the understanding of how to appreciate each other and then value each other.
Dig it. Had they understood the philosophy, system, and game of capitalistic white supremacy and racism, what do you think they could have accomplished?
Oh man, they could have set the prototype in play. I mean, a lot of positive things could have happened because all three of them were in Harlem at the same damn time.
That's right.
Along with who else? Guess who else was in Harlem at that time? Reverend Ike.
Oh, all right. So he could have brought the whole religious aspect from a completely different level.
Yeah. So there were several cats.
Yeah.
Who were maneuvering in Harlem and New York City at the same time that these cats were maneuvering, you see? And then you had other Enlightenment groups and whatnot. But because of the tribalism through religiosity, and, I mean, when you get into the whole Savage deal, after Bumpy died, and you get Nicky Barnes, you get Frank Lucas, hell, Puff Daddy's father was one of the gangsters, Sergeant Smack. Man, you got a lot of cats. And ironically, let me show you this. When you really start to study these cats, and you can go to YouTube and study these cats on video. If you look at Ike Atchison, who they call Sergeant Smack, he's the real individual that the movie American Gangster was all about. It wasn't about Frank Lucas. That Frank Lucas lied a lot. But you look at three, even though Frank Lucas was a big time dope dealer, Frank Lucas, Ike Atchison, and his other brother, about 3 or 4 of your top drug dealers, your top gangsters in New York City now, guess where they were from?
Shreveport.
No, they were from your damn neck of the woods, South Carolina.
South Carolina? What? All right.
That South, brother. That South is a monster, brother.
Yes, sir.
Man, from the South, bruh, we go anywhere. And we learn it, and we gonna make it do what it do.
Right. Cool.
No matter whether it's the West Coast, the East Coast, the Midwest. That's your flavor. That's your soldierism coming out of the South, bruh. We make it do what it do.
I can dig it. Okay, so were the Panthers the closest entity since that time to have the makings or the possibility of the makings to bring these 3 entities together: the gangster, the religious, and the political? Were the Panthers the closest entity to make that happen?
Close. They were close because the Panthers could reach out and touch your ass.
Right, and they did.
yeah, and they would touch your ass.
Yeah, no doubt.
They had cats coming from the military who was about that life. They'll put your ass in the dirt if you weren't stepping in line with the agenda of Black liberation. They'll put you in the dirt now.
And you do know the Nation of Islam had hitters as well.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, they got hitters. Yeah, they just don't tell you that.
I'm not sure they have them now, but they most certainly had them.
Oh, they got them, bro. They got them.
Okay, good. Well, that's a good thing.
Try to run up on Farrakhan's mansion, bro. Try to run up on that mansion.
All right, so America has worked with the underworld to take, maintain, and expand upon their power, but our movements and our organizations have strayed away from these groups. Why do you think that is? Why do we stray away?
Part of it is religiosity. I mean, religiosity keeps our minds operating in a very idealistic fashion and unrealistic fashion versus realistic. And so that whole deal with religiosity keeps us dealing with fantasy and not how the thing really is. And so, you get caught up in devaluing some of these individuals who are who have major league influence. Again, you go back to Godfather of Harlem. Hell, it's people asking Bumpy Johnson for college tuition for their children, asking for their light bill to be paid, asking for help in City Hall. When you're a broke Negro talking all the grassroots talk, but you can't make nothing happen, who the hell you think the people are gonna follow?
The one that can make something
happen. So while some of our people don't get with them, leave them alone, the white folks say, hey, they the one that got the connection to the streets.
That's right.
And we kind of not wanted to sit down because, with religiosity and the pseudo education, these Negroes view themselves as being better than these cats, and they ain't. So I study all these films because, again, white folks gonna tell you the truth, in these films, and you learn how to navigate and maneuver, and you start to see how this thing really works.
At the height of Larry Hoover's movements and activity, it's been reported that his numbers were 100,000 plus.
Yeah.
Can you name another organization that had that many Black people that actively doing and engaged?
Hell no. That's why you think his ass is still in jail?
Forever.
Forever. Jeff Fort probably had 50, 60,000. Freeway Ricky Ross probably had about 30, 40, 50,000.
Right.
I mean, these cats were running corporations, yo.
Yep.
And and though the products they were selling were bad for the community, you still got to understand these cats are not just drug dealers. These cats are business-minded individuals. Noah Robinson is in jail for life. Jesse Jackson's half brother. Do the research on that cat. They were setting up 501c3s in the late 60s, early 70s.
That's right.
Under the P-Stone Rangers and Gangster Disciples and El Rucon. They were getting goddamn grant dollars. Jesse Jackson was showing them how to pimp the state and federal funding as gangsters. Man, you better recognize, man. Man, this thing is on a whole nother level.
So I'm glad you brought up Noah Robinson Jr. because my next question was, why is he in particular significant to the Black empowerment effort? Why him in particular?
He got a degree from Wharton School of Business.
Which means what? He's intelligent.
Not only that, he intelligent. Wharton School of Business at the University of Columbia is one of the top 5 MBA programs, grad schools in the world.
Mm-hmm.
This dude mastered their program.
That's right.
He mastered the white folks program, and he's a street dude.
Right.
With a brother who was in national politics. That's a deadly combination, bro.
Yes, sir. Which is probably why he's in prison forever.
Forever.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So Madams, Pimps, and Gangsters, the revolutionary underworld, and its importance in the Black grassroots revolution. Can we do this Black empowerment thing without the Madams, Pimps, and the Gangsters? Do we need a modern day Larry Hoover or Noah Robinson Jr.? And if so, why?
We don't need them, but you need to know who they are in the various cities, and there needs to be some dialogue, some sit down with them, because throughout this country, no matter who an individual is, whether they are a grassroots person, a street person, a preacher, everybody has somebody that they look up to as an elder or a wise person.
That's right.
So again, these people have influence. We don't need them for what we need to do, but they need to be communicated with and approached, and understanding needs to be reached. That certain things that are going on will not be tolerated, and in order to get to that level, you got to have built up your weight.
That's right.
You can't just go talk to them about what ain't gonna happen and not get a cap bust in your head.
And you got to build it up before the conversation.
Oh, yo, yeah, don't try this. Don't try this. Look, man, don't try this at home, okay?
Right.
Make sure that you got some weight. Get your weight up before you try to start to talk to some of these folks. Because look, you saw, although Lil Bootsy is a gangster, and unfortunately Lil Mo 3 ended up meeting an untimely fate. You saw what happened when they went to go meet with Mike Tyson on his podcast, and Mike Tyson started talking to him real, and Lil Bootsy all on the, records and videos. I'm a gangster, da da da, you know. But when he had to sit in front of Mike Tyson,
Mm-hmm.
yes sir, yes sir, yes sir. He was quiet
Mm.
because he knew Mike Tyson could bust his head in.
And would.
And would.
On camera.
On camera.
Mike has gone off on a few reporters more than one.
And if you all want to see what I'm talking about, go to YouTube and put in Mike Tyson, Bootsy, and Mo 3. And bro, you will see something extraordinary. But that's what it is. You got to be able to have, these people got to have respect for you. Because if they don't, you ain't gonna be able to have no conversations with them.
Cool. Okay. And most certainly, if you're trying to have a conversation with them, well, if you can get that far, they're not gonna listen to you.
Exactly.
But I will tell you this quick interesting story. A few years ago, two friends of mine, a brother I grew up with, and his business partner, we were literally trying to start an online boxing television network. And you know, I did the business plan, everything was solid, the numbers were strong, and you know, Jay Prince is a big boxing fan.
Hell yeah, ain't no fan. He part of the industry.
Yeah, no doubt. So I had a few opportunities to speak to the brother here in Houston.
Okay.
Gave him my executive summary. Nice guy. And unfortunately, it didn't work out. But I thought it was interesting. And at that time, I didn't really know who he was. I knew what the talk was, but I was thinking, you know, he loves boxing. My plan is solid. So we had a few interactions that were kind of cool.
Hey, bro, let me tell you something.
I met the brother. Yes, sir.
Man, Jay Prince is a real deal brother, man. And let me tell you, these Negroes from New York, a few of his artists were in New York, young cats.
That's right.
And they stole, these youngsters, these little savages stole his artist chain. And Jay Prince don't never come on no damn YouTube. But he went on YouTube and he said, God damn it, in 24 hours, I want that goddamn chain back. And Jay Prince is in Houston for everybody who is on the call. He is the godfather of the hip hop game. Jay Prince told we want that damn chain back in less than 48 hours, 24 hours, something like that. And you know, there was a few people that got on YouTube talking smack, and then they had to come back the next day and make an apology video because they could be found missing. And guess what happened in less than 48 hours?
What happened?
That goddamn chain.
It popped up.
That chain popped up, bro.
Yes, sir. Brother Craig referenced an interview between Mike Tyson and Lil Boosie. I just put the link in the chat if you guys want to go watch it. It's pretty interesting. Okay, we did pretty good tonight. I don't have one more question, and then we're good to go. So if you could give only one absolute must know and understand, only one, you guys must know this and you guys must understand this from tonight's show, for everybody watching, everybody that's going to watch the recording. If you could only give one absolute, you must know this and you understand this from tonight's show, what would that one thing be?
You must immerse yourself into a curriculum of videos, movies, documentaries pertaining to the criminal underworld in this country and abroad, because it will contain everything about politics, governmental politics, economics, you know, the whole nine. You must do that. And that's the beautiful thing about YouTube. It's right there at your fingertips. You can learn about, go and watch the whole series on American Gangster. So you can learn about Marvin Williams and these other people. It ain't about trying to glorify no drugs. These people are real and they make impacts. Marvin Williams in particular, that cat there was one of the biggest dope dealers in Baltimore back in the 60s. And when King was assassinated, they needed him to calm Black folks down in Baltimore. So that was a call that was made from the city officials. Marvin Williams was used as a consultant on arguably the greatest docudrama, docuseries ever made, called The Wire. And you'll see him in The Wire as the preacher. But you got all of these documentaries that you can look at. And I'm telling you, that along with, looking at Godfather 1 through 3, look at this movie called Savages that came out a few years ago about the legalization of marijuana and how these two white boys had great product and how the Mexican cartel came in on them.
That's right.
Look at Sicario, so you can see how the United States government has hitters, and there's a deal between the Mexican cartel and the United States drug dealers to import product, and how this thing goes down. I mean, this thing is very complex. So I would say, in one thing, make that a part of your curriculum, of your learning, so that you are well versed in the realities of the real game of the philosophy, system, and game of capitalistic white supremacy.
That movie Sicario is no joke.
No joke. One and two.
And I don't know if, and I've been watching a lot of documentaries on the dope game, the drug business, because like you said, we're going to have a conversation with some people, but we got to make sure that we got our weight up when we have these conversations, because you're talking about, a multi-billion-dollar industry that people are making money from, big money, and they will protect it. So they train their soldiers as well. And
yeah.
And they will reach out and touch people if they think you are jeopardizing their operations, which means you got to be ready, willing, able to take care of business as well, because it's not a matter of if, it's when and how.
Look, let me tell you, and y'all can pull this up. Do this search for everybody there. Google the name Glenn Ford, F-O-R-D, Glenn Ford, Louisiana. Glenn Ford is a brother from Shreveport, Stoner Hill community. He was wrongfully convicted and was sentenced to death row. And you may have seen this story because it made Nightline ABC a few years back. He spent over 30 years on death row. Let me show you how the Creator has blessed me to be in this game. So Glenn Ford had been in prison for decades, okay? And he was in prison supposedly for murdering a white jeweler, old man Roseman, in a jewelry heist from Mr. Roseman's jewelry store. He didn't do it now. And the police knew that he didn't do it. So you say, well, why did he go to jail? So we don't know that at this particular point. This is like a few years ago, like 2014. Okay. So all of a sudden, a new DA takes office once our colleague, who was a judge, Judge Rex, he died unexpectedly as a DA. So this new guy takes over as the DA, and between his department and the police department, there was a cold case opened up about my surrogate father. His name was Bruce Cotton Sr. He was a preacher, and he was found killed in South Bossier Parish. So this white boy is working the case, and the white boy goes to an informant now for the police for over 3 decades. And he asked the informant about who did he believe murdered my surrogate father, Bruce Cotton. And the informant says the same persons who murdered old man Roseman at the jewelry store. So, you know, the white guy's like, what the hell are you talking about? So he points out these 2 notorious brothers who were straight up killers and heroin dealers in Shreveport. They are the first cousins of Glenn Ford. Follow me. These 2 guys ended up, one of the brothers murdered my surrogate father. They had his billboards all up. And so once the cop finds out about it, they reported to the DA. Glenn Ford is now dying in Angola, but they now release him. And so he never told anything about this case. Why? Because his 2 cousins, his first cousins, his mother's nephews, told him that if he were to ever say what really happened, they would kill his mama, which is their aunt, and his whole goddamn family. That's how. Now, they were protected by the old DA and the sheriff, and they were allowed to run drugs in exchange for handling the political operations for them to secure votes in that particular area. That's how this game works, bro. That's how this game works.
And that is the philosophy, the system, and the game of capitalistic white supremacy and racism in America. Well, we did very well with time. We're 12 minutes over. I thought it was going to be a bit more than that. Yeah, well, Brother Ken, I'm not sure if this is a question or a comment. Lowell Hawthorne, who was about to go worldwide with this multi-million-dollar product, multi-million-dollar product. Death is of a very suspicious nature, supposedly suicide. He would have been the first Black to go worldwide. Conspiracy theory overrides the facts around this case. His death. This is the brother that you sent me the article about.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you for that statement, Brother Ken. Does anyone have a question or comment for Brother Craig before we close this thing out this evening?
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
Go ahead, Brother Ruth.
Oh, what's going on, brother? Sorry about that. So, Brother Craig, I wanted to know if you knew of any attempt for some of these gangsters to come together in the mafia style family and really like run stuff on a whole nother level, or was it just too much backbiting and stuff like that for that to happen? Because it seemed like if they were a little bit more organized, they might have been almost untouchable.
Mm-hmm. It's funny you asked that question, Brother Nehru. So let me point out first. I'm gonna point out what was in the documentary with Bumpy Johnson, Godfather of Harlem. There's a scene, and Tamani and I laughed about it. We talked about it. Bumpy Johnson attempted to do that with this one guy, and they wanted to cut the Italians out and get the product straight from the manufacturer, right? And so Bumpy Johnson called a meeting with the dude, and because he's doing pretty much what Tamani does, try to work with every goddamn body and whatnot. So Bumpy calls the meeting, and they meet in the back. And so he's like, man, we can do this. We can come together and we can cut them out. And so the dude's like, uh-huh. And he's like, who gonna run it? And so Bumpy's like, who you think gonna run it? I'm the elder statesman, right?
That's right.
So the dude, Naru, says, nah, I'm good. The Geeches ain't never did nothing to me. They treat me good. And so Bumpy looked at his partner and look here, bro. Naru, you know what he had to do to him. He cut his throat right there at the
Oh, what
table.
happened? Yeah. It's a
Because you already know he's gonna go back and snitch, right?
doubt.
All right, so that's that. But now if you go deal with Nicky Barnes, they had a syndicate that was modeled within an Islamic fashion. They called themselves the Commission. But once Nicky Barnes went to jail, one of the cats slept with his chick. So you already know what happened.
Yes, sir. So are we talking about just in their states, or are we talking about more multi-state and then international? I'm talking about on a whole like international.
See, they would never see that. See, the whole thing is because we lack culture, and they don't want to deal with Africa. That could never happen on an international level because you got too much tribalism and too much backbiting that goes on. So in order to start that, you would have to start it first in the States on a solid level and then morph into, Africa, the Caribbean, but them cats ain't operating on that level. That's why I said, if you look at how the Italian mafia and the Jewish mafia roll, see, they roll between Italy and the United States. They roll between Israel and the United States. They're conglomerates.
Yeah.
But no, these Negroes ain't rolling like that.
And it's like Brother Lloyd said, we haven't learned to move from illegal to corporate. We can't even do crime right.
Yeah, it's tough, man.
Because we lack vision.
Jamaicans, though, I haven't heard you talk nothing about like the Jamaican gangsters. They kind of like got a
Oh, it's a lot. I just hadn't focused on those because we were talking about directly connected to the grassroots movement.
Okay, got you.
But yeah, those cats, same situation. But we were just kind of connecting it to the grassroots movement and how these entities operated. And some of them help fund stuff for the Black Panthers and whatnot. These cats, some of them pretty sophisticated for the most part.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Cool. Lloyd?
Oh, I was going to say real quick, we talk about, sufficient steps and knowing so much about knowing where you at. So just real quick for people, let them know about the amount of stuff, the amount of things that they can do where you at to really know where you at. Because I think sometimes we can feel like that we making steps, in our local areas. And we talk about, really about being effective and knowing it. But if you can't get, a lot of local people on the phone, or if you can't name, a lot of your officials or name the groups or create partnerships, very quickly where you at, that means we need to do some more groundwork. They don't say nothing about anybody. They just say, we just need to make sure that we making those connections, because sometimes we can think, a lot of these politicians, we're not going to make no connections with, because that connection is not there. We don't hold that power for them to even want that connection with us. So, when we doing things like that, just talk a little bit more about if you have any steps for people to really be involved in a local politics, in a local neighborhood, and what that looks like.
It's a very good question and a very good point. Lloyd came up here 2 weeks ago, and for one of our Tuesday morning breakfasts. And like I say, we've been doing Tuesday morning breakfast for 24 years. And a lot of these Negroes in Shreveport hate to see me coming. Some of them actually hate me, and I love it. But what has happened over these past 25 years that I've been doing this work, I've been very consistent from grassroots advocacy to my small business, to programs, to projects. So I've been a consistent troublemaker here, city council, parish commission, school board, state legislature, federal government, the whole nine. And so throughout the process of learning these various levels of private and public sector enterprise in your local city and being visible, doing projects and programs, you start to gain insight as to different individuals in the private sector, in the public sector. And when they see that you are legit, you are uncompromising, because these white folks have offered me money for 25 years to sell out Black folks, and I've never taken a dime. And so that's why I can give people the blueprint for how to do this, that Malcolm didn't even understand, that King didn't even understand, that Garvey didn't even understand, because it is all about those 6 pillars of empowerment. And there's no way that you're going to do this without being an entrepreneur. And the brand of entrepreneurship that I created is called Cultra Social Entrepreneurship. And in me finding a connection with Tamani and now Lloyd and other people in the BGN, but in particular Lloyd, because Lloyd is definitely a younger version of me. He knows his people in that area. He has a business that he's running, and within that overall dynamic, when the people see that physical reality, that is the way you educate our folks. They not gonna pick up no goddamn novels and books and read. They don't even want to see the type of movies that we would recommend on the movie watch list. But you know, you show their ass souls on the plane and or snakes on the plane and some of this foolishness that they watch, they'll consume that. So within this dynamic, you got to know the most minute people in your particular area and take an inventory. So now when Lloyd came up, hey bro, we were on a all-day journey and I'm connecting him throughout. Lloyd has now set up business between our top hair care distributor. So Lloyd is now going to mobilize some of the people that Mr. Hurd used to be the president of the Black Hair Care Association. Lloyd didn't even know that that had been tried before. But see, now you got a new cat in town, and let me tell you, Lloyd, how did Mr. Hurd and Miss Hurd respond?
Oh, they was happy to it. They, you know, as much as, even though their kids aren't directly in the business right now, they, you know, their younger son and me and him are already connected, and they looking to grow the business and keep it going and see how we can take it to the next level. So my job here is making sure that I gather, and we already know all the Black-owned beauty supply stores here in Houston. We already know who they are. We know their names. We know their owners. We know everybody, and building that same coalition, you know, and gathering here. And that's the thing that Mr. Hurd and them didn't have. They didn't have nobody, a real ally here in Houston that's willing to do the work.
And look, at Lloyd, and he'll tell you, it was so funny. You know, I created in my mind, Tamani, you know, this game plan of being able to penetrate the hair care industry around the retail merchants. That's so, you know, I had figured this all out. And man, Miss Hurd broke this thing down because they had already done a non-multi-level marketing deal and tried to help these Negroes get commissions. And she broke this thing down, and Lloyd had never heard me make this pitch. And Lloyd looked at me and said, Craig, that shit ain't gonna work, bro. That he's like, these Negroes just want to cut hair and do hair. They don't want to dominate the industry. So they immediately shot my little. But as a marketing person, I'm always trying to create solutions where we can tap in to this $1.5 trillion. And the hair care, the beauty and hair care industry is one of those industries that we definitely need to be focused on. So I appreciate Lloyd, and I was able to get him around, and we had a great time.
Cool. Anybody else? Question or comment about the show tonight for Brother Craig? Anybody else? Everybody good? All right. It's 10:24.
Ain't no more damn questions, man. God,
that means you did a good job. All right. As usual, we want to thank everybody for taking time out of your evening to be a part of the show. We sincerely appreciate it. Again, this is our 19th episode. So we are most certainly making this thing happen to try and give our people a very concrete understanding of politics, how this thing actually works, the gangster nature of it, and the reality of it. So before I give my closing comment, Brother Craig, you want to say anything else in closing before we close it out?
You know, I've had the good fortune of learning this whole thing from, as people would say, the rootin' to the toothin'. And I'm honored to be connected to people like Mark Mariel, president of the National Urban League. He was my political advisor, so to speak, when we were at Xavier University in New Orleans. And, you know, living in Louisiana, you're living in two different states, North Louisiana versus South Louisiana. Lloyd has people from a few parts of Louisiana, South and like Central. And let me tell you, New Orleans is a mafia town. Mm. Shreveport got mafia. The question that Naru asked is a serious one. It is a real one. But when you start to add this to your curriculum of learning, and you start to do this work out here, and you go from good deeds into doing empowerment work, and you now really start to put these dots together, you're gonna see how complex this thing really, really is. And all I'm telling you is just be alert and aware, because when you start to maneuver, and heaven forbid you start to make public policy changes, some of the main entities that they're gonna send at you gonna look just like you. Mm-hmm. And if you ain't equipped to handle your business, you'll become a casualty in this game. So you got to be multifaceted, multidimensional in your thinking and your approaches in order to navigate these treacherous waters that we have to deal with. And with that, I leave you with a quote by Malcolm: education is our passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today. Not the people who prepare for it tomorrow, because you don't know if you're going to be alive tomorrow. The people who prepare for it today. And within that education, you got to be well versed in a variety of subjects that fall under those 6 pillars of empowerment. And with that, I thank you guys for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Amen. If you want more information about the Black Gold Nation movement, my email is theblackgoldnation@gmail.com. If you want more information or to watch the movies that we have reviewed, I think we're on our, I think the 14th or 15th movie coming up. And if you want to better understand what the Black Gold Nation movement is all about, what we believe, what we're trying to do, why and how, and plug into the previous 18 episodes, then both those things can be found on our media website, blackgoldmedia.net. As I said in the beginning, we're not here to just inform and educate you. We want to inform, educate, motivate, mobilize, organize, and build. We're trying to get you to do something. We don't want to just talk about it. We don't want to just post on social media. Every single thing we do in this movement is about bringing our people together so we can find the right people, so we can build a nation within this nation that has power, because power is the only thing that's going to protect us from all this stuff that we're always talking about. And if you don't understand the philosophy, the system, and the game of capitalistic white supremacy and racism, you're going to be lost, confused, and you're going to lose. Fortunately, we understand it. We have the leadership to protect us from it. We simply need to get more Black people on board so we can build it. So with that, as Brother Craig said, we thank you for your time. We thank you for being a part of the show. Invite some other people next week. We do this every Thursday at 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific. Invite some other Black people so that all of this information that we're going over and giving out and talking about, it'll be shared by many more people, because all of our people need it. So again, with that, last 2 things, always remember, no one can do everything, but if everyone does something, everything will get done. And lastly, always, always, always remember that nothing is more sacred than the liberation and salvation of Black people. Thank you very much. God bless y'all. Have a good evening. I appreciate it.
Peace.
Peace.